All right, this video is going to go through and go back over your basics for proportions. You should remember this from 6th and 7th grade, but if not, this is just a way for you to go back and recall what you've learned in the past and make sure that it's present in your memory at this time. All right, the first thing we want to do is define a proportion. A proportion is an equation, because it does have an equal sign, that states that two ratios are equal. And the way we solve or test out proportions is by using what is known as cross products or cross multiplication. All right, and this is the products of the diagonals. All right, so for part one, we're going to identify whether two ratios are truly a proportion or not. And the way we do this is simply by testing their cross products. All right, so for the first one, right, we're going to have to show proof that we have true proportions or not. Just because they look like two fractions with an equal sign does not make them automatically a proportion. Right? Looks can be deceiving, so you always have to mathematically prove it. So we're going to take the multiplication of 9 times 27, which equals 243. And then we're going to go the other way with 12 times 18, which equals 216. Because the products are not equal to each other, 243 is not the same as 216. Number one is not a true proportion. So we say no, because it says determine if it is. It's a yes or no answer, right? But because our numbers are not the same, it is definitely not a proportion. So for number two, if we go 5 times 4, that makes 20. If we go the other way, 2 times 10, that also makes 20. So since they both made 20, we get to say yes. So the proportion in number two is a true proportion. So you'll try 3 and 4 on your own and see what you come up with. Right, down in part two, you're solving for the missing letter, which we're also using cross multiplication here. So it's just now you have to set up an equation and solve it for the letter that's there. Right, so we're going to take 10 times x, which is 10x, equals 9 times 4, which is 36. And then we're always going to divide to get rid of that number. And when we take and divide 36 divided by 10, we end up with 3.6. Okay, and it is okay to have decimals at this point. If you want to leave it as a fraction, just make sure you reduce them. Right, for number 6, if we do 2 times d, we get 2d. Go the other way, 7 times 3, you get 21. You're going to divide by 2 to both sides, which means the value of d is going to be 10.5. Okay, so make sure that you solve for the variable and show your work, and the work is the equation that you come up with. So try 7 and 8 on your own. Go ahead and flip to the back. Part of what you're going to have to be able to do is take a word problem and set up a proportion for it and then turn around and solve it. Right? So we've got a bunch of different word problems back here that we're going to practice doing that. Right? And there's 3 components to your work when you do this. I want to see the words that you use to set up your proportion. I want to see the proportion that you use, and then I want to see your work that got you to the final answer. Right? So for number one, if 64 feet of rope weigh 20 pounds, how much will 80 feet of the same rope weigh? So the first thing I want you to do is set up a ratio using words of the two things that are being compared. So in this problem, we're comparing feet to pounds, because that's the only 2 units we've got in this problem. So when you set up your proportion, which is the next piece, you know what numbers to put on top and what numbers to put on the bottom. So 64 is feet, it goes up on top, and the pounds for the 64 feet is 20 pounds, that goes on the bottom. Then when we go to 80 feet, 80 goes on top, and our x goes on the bottom. We still use cross multiplication, so 64 times x is 64x, 80 times 20 is 1600. Divide by 64 like you normally would do, and you come out with x equals 25. Okay, and it tells you up in the directions to make sure that you include units in your answers. Your answer is not complete until the units are there. I need to know 25 what. And if you look where your x is on the bottom, and that's where the pounds are, so this is 25 pounds. Okay, so that's what it should look like anytime you're doing a word problem and setting up a proportion for them. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump to number 4. We're doing Mike and Pat travel 392 miles in 7 hours. If they travel at the same rate, how long will it take them to travel 728 miles? So the 2 units of measurement we've got are miles and hours. So when we set up our ratios, right, we're going to put 392 over 7, and then we're going to put 728 over x. Right? And then we're going to do the cross multiplying. So we end up with 392x equals 5,096. We're going to divide by 392 on each side, and we come out with 13. And again, go back and look and see where your X is. Your X is on the bottom, so that means it's 13 hours. If you're not sure what the unit is, go back and read the question. The question will tell you which one you need. It says how long will it take them, so it has to be a unit of time. So use some common sense when it comes down to that so that you can get the right unit there. Right? The number's half the battle, but the unit's the other half. Okay, and then if you jump down to number 7, we want to take a look at a 12-ounce box of cereal costs 84 cents. How many ounces should be in a box for 49 cents? So the two units of measurement are ounces and dollars. Right, so when you go to set up your proportion, it's going to be 12 ounces over 84 cents, 0.84. And then we don't know how many ounces over 0.49. So all the money has to stay on the bottom. Now, when you go to do your cross multiplying, you're going to end up with 0.84x equals 12 times 0.49, which is 588. Divide by 0.84 to both sides, and you're going to come up with the answer of 7. So x equals 7, and if you go back to your original problem, we are missing the ounces, so in this case it's 7 ounces. And if you use some common sense, if a 12-ounce box was 84 cents, then the next box has to be smaller because the price is cheaper, right? So you can kind of use some common sense behind your answer, and does that really make sense as you go? So all the problems that we did not do through this video, you need to go back and complete on your own, and I will be checking those answers when you come to class.